The Dreadmaw stood 30 meters tall, its crystalline armor catching the light of 3 suns. Commander Taijin watched from his command ship high above the planet, a satisfied smile on his face. Below, the human colony of New Hanyang burned in scattered patches, not from the Dreadmaw's destruction, but from the chaos of evacuation. The humans were running, as they always did. Taijin had seen this 47 times before, 47 worlds, 47 victories. The pattern never changed. First, they would send warnings. Then the Dreadmaw would land. Then the planet would surrender. Simple, efficient. The Vrexian way. On the ground, Captain Jiwoo pressed herself against the broken wall of a defense bunker. Her rifle felt useless in her hands. She had watched 3 plasma cannons fired directly at the beast. The shots had bounced off like raindrops. Missiles exploded against its hide and left no marks. The creature's crystalline armor regenerated faster than they could damage it. "Captain, we need to fall back." Lieutenant Yuna spoke through the communicator. Her voice was steady, but Jiwoo could hear the fear underneath. They were soldiers, trained for combat, prepared for war. But nothing prepared you for fighting something that simply could not be hurt. "We hold this position," Jiwoo said. "Sector 7G still has civilians. They need 5 more minutes to reach the evacuation shuttles." Sergeant Minho appeared beside her, breathing hard. His uniform was covered in dust. "Captain, the beast just tore through the eastern defense line like it was paper. Nothing we have can stop it." Jiwoo looked at the Dreadmaw. It moved with terrible purpose, each step shaking the ground. Its 6 eyes glowed with an eerie blue light. The creature had the body of something reptilian, but covered in those strange crystal plates that grew back within seconds of being damaged. 4 massive legs carried its bulk forward. 2 smaller arms hung from its upper body, each ending in claws that could tear through reinforced steel. The Vrexians had engineered it perfectly. A living weapon that could heal, could not be stopped, could not be reasoned with. Jiwoo had read the intelligence reports. The Dreadmaw had destroyed military bases, toppled cities, broken the will of entire planets. And now it was here, on her world, heading toward her people. "All units, fall back to position Delta," she ordered into her communicator. "We cannot stop it, but we can slow it down." High above, Commander Taijin poured himself a drink. His second in command, a younger officer named Quan, stood at attention nearby. "Sir, the humans are retreating. Should we press the advantage?" "No need," Taijin said. "The Dreadmaw will do our work. By sunset, they will surrender. They always do." Quan shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, what if they use their orbital weapons? The reports say humans can be unpredictable when cornered." Taijin laughed. "Let them fire from orbit. Let them drop their bombs. The Dreadmaw will survive. It always survives. That is why we use it, Quan. That is why the Vrexian Empire rules 47 systems. Not because we are cruel, but because we possess something that cannot be defeated." On the surface, the Dreadmaw changed direction. Captain Jiwoo noticed it first. The creature had been moving toward the military command center, but now it turned. Its massive head swiveled, those 6 eyes focusing on something to the west. "Sector 7G. "No," Jiwoo whispered. She started running. Her legs burned. Her lungs screamed for air. Behind her, Yuna and Minho followed. They all knew it was useless. They could not outrun the Dreadmaw. They could not stop it, but they had to try. In Sector 7G, Heijin held her youngest son close. Little Do-hyun was only 3 years old, and he did not understand why the ground was shaking, why the lights had gone out, why his mother's face was so tight with worry. "Mommy, I'm scared," whispered Nari, her 5-year-old daughter. The girl clutched her stuffed rabbit, the one her father had given her before he died. "I know, baby," Heijin said softly, "but we are safe here in the shelter. Nothing can hurt us here. She was lying. She knew she was lying. The shelter was designed for storms and minor accidents, not for war. Not for whatever was making the ground shake like an earthquake. Seojun, her 8-year-old son, was pressed against the small window of the shelter. "Mom, I can see something. Something big." Haejin's heart sank. She pulled Sojun away from the window and gathered all 3 children close. "Listen to me. Whatever happens, stay quiet. Stay together. Do you understand?" 3 small heads nodded against her. The evacuation shuttle had never come to their sector. Haejin worked as a structural engineer at the colony's main construction facility. She knew the evacuation protocols. She knew that Sector 7G was supposed to be on the 3rd wave of shuttles. But something had gone wrong. The military channels were full of panic and screaming. The shuttles had diverted to other sectors. They were alone. Admiral Gunwoo sat in his command chair on the orbital station, staring at the tactical display. The Dreadmaw was moving towards Sector 7G. His analysts had confirmed that 347 civilians were still in that sector. 347 people who had not made it to the evacuation shuttles. "Sir, we have the plasma bore missiles ready," his weapons officer reported. "We can target the Dreadmaw's position. The blast might damage it enough to force a Vrexian retreat." "How big is the blast radius?" Gunwoo asked, though he already knew the answer. 6 city blocks, sir, including Sector 7G. Silence filled the command center. Every officer understood what that meant. Kill the monster, kill the civilians. Save the civilians. Lose the planet. Gunwoo had 15 minutes to decide. 15 minutes before the Dreadmaw reached the residential sector. 15 minutes before 347 people died either way. The ground exploded upward. Haejin threw herself over her children as concrete and metal rained down around them. The ceiling of the shelter was gone. Ripped away like paper. Daylight flooded in, harsh and sudden. And then the shadow fell over them. Haejin looked up slowly. The Dreadmaw towered above the shelter, so large it blocked out the sun. Its 6 eyes looked down at them, with alien intelligence. One massive claw extended toward the shelter, toward her children. This was the end. Haejin knew it. She had no weapons, no armor, no way to fight. But she was a mother, and mothers do not stop fighting. Ever. She stood up. Her children whimpered behind her. Seojun grabbed Nari. Nari grabbed Do-hyun. They huddled together in the ruins of their shelter, while their mother placed herself between them and the monster. The Dreadmaw's claw came closer. Haejin could see every detail of it now. The way the crystalline armor overlapped, the scars underneath, old wounds that had healed, the trembling in the massive limb. As if the creature itself was uncertain. Haejin had raised 3 children alone after her husband died. She had worked double shifts while pregnant with Do-hyun. She had survived on 4 hours of sleep for years. She had handled tantrums and tears, skinned knees and bad dreams, defiance and disobedience. She knew exactly what that trembling meant. The creature was not thinking. It was reacting, acting out. Like a child having a tantrum, lashing out because it did not know what else to do. Haejin took a breath. Then she used the voice. The voice that stopped Seojun mid-argument. The voice that made Nari freeze during a meltdown. The voice that could cut through any chaos in her household. "No," she said firmly. "Sit down." The Dreadmaw stopped moving. Commander Taejin dropped his drink. The glass shattered on the floor of his command ship. But he did not notice. His eyes were locked on the screen, showing the Dreadmaw's position. The creature had stopped moving. Completely stopped. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Why has the Dreadmaw ceased its attack?" Quan frantically checked the biomonitors. Every Vrexian war vessel had systems to track the Dreadmaw's vital signs and neural activity. The readings were supposed to show aggression, hunting patterns, destruction protocols. Instead, the screens showed something impossible. "Sir, the neural readings show compliance patterns," Quan said slowly. as if he did not believe his own words. That is impossible. Check the systems. There must be a malfunction. I have checked 3 times, sir. The readings are accurate. The Dreadmaw is showing the same brain patterns it shows when we use the control systems. But we have not activated any controls. Dreadmaw. These Redmaw. I have checked 3 times, sir. Taejin leaned forward. On the screen, he could see the Dreadmaw standing perfectly still. One claw extended toward a ruined building. Near the building, thermal imaging showed human life signs. 4 of them. 1 adult, 3 children. What are those humans doing? Taejin whispered. On the ground, Captain Jiwoo and her squad arrived at the edge of Sector 7G. They had run the entire way, expecting to find carnage. Instead, they found silence. The Dreadmaw stood like a statue in the middle of the destroyed street. It was not moving, not attacking, just standing there. What in the name of Earth? Lieutenant Yuna breathed. Sergeant Minho raised his rifle. But Jiwoo put a hand on his arm. Wait. Something is different. They moved closer, keeping to cover, weapons ready. As they got nearer, they could hear a voice. A woman's voice. Speaking in Korean. Speaking to the Dreadmaw. Haejin kept her eyes locked on the creature. It had not moved since she told it to stop. The massive claw was still extended. Frozen in mid-reach. She could see the 6 eyes focusing on her, but there was no aggression in them now. Only confusion. I said sit down. Haejin repeated, adding more force to her voice. The Dreadmaw's legs trembled. Then, slowly, they began to bend. The creature lowered itself to the ground with a massive crash that shook the entire sector. Dust exploded upward. Buildings nearby groaned from the impact. But the Dreadmaw sat. A 30-meter-tall bioweapon, designed to destroy worlds, was sitting on its haunches like an obedient pet. Do-hyun peeked out from behind his mother. Mommy, the big thing is sitting. Yes, baby, Haejin said, not taking her eyes off the creature. Admiral Gunwoo stood up from his command chair. His officers were all staring at their screens in shock. The plasma bore missiles were still armed, still ready to fire. But the target had stopped moving. Someone tell me what I am looking at, Gunwoo said. Sir. The Dreadmaw has assumed a non-threatening posture, the tactical officer reported. It is no longer advancing, no longer showing aggressive behavior. It is just sitting there. Why? Nobody had an answer. Haejin took a step forward. Her children gasped behind her, but she held up one hand to keep them quiet. She needed to see something, needed to understand what she was dealing with. The Dreadmaw watched her approach. Its 6 eyes tracked her movement, but it did not react. Did not raise its claws, did not bare the massive teeth she could see in its jaw. It just watched. She got close enough to touch the creature's leg. The crystalline armor was warm under her hand. She could feel it vibrating slightly, like a purring cat, but much, much deeper. Through gaps in the armor, she could see softer tissue underneath. And scars. Many scars. You have been hurt, Haejin said softly. Someone has been hurting you. On the Vrexian command ship, alarms began blaring. Kwan's fingers flew across his controls. Sir, the Dreadmaw's stress hormones are dropping. Aggression chemicals are decreasing. This should not be possible without the chemical suppressants. What is that human doing to our weapon? Taejin demanded. Kwan pulled up a visual feed. On the screen, they could see a small human woman standing next to the Dreadmaw's massive leg. She was touching it. The creature was not reacting. She is making physical contact, sir. The Dreadmaw is allowing it. Taejin felt cold fear creep into his chest. The Dreadmaw had been engineered specifically to be aggressive toward all non-Vrexian life forms. It attacked anything that came near it, except for its handlers, and even the handlers used pain controls to keep it in line. Physical affection was not part of its programming. Physical affection made weapons soft. Activate the pain compliance system, Taejin ordered. Sir? You heard me. Activate it now. Quan hesitated, then entered the commands. On every Vrexian war beast, neural implants allowed handlers to deliver electric shocks directly to the pain centers of the brain. It was the only reliable way to control something as powerful as the Dreadmaw. The implants activated. The Dreadmaw shuddered. A sound came from its throat, deep and rumbling, like distant thunder. But it did not move from its sitting position. The 6 eyes squeezed shut. The massive body trembled, but it stayed exactly where it was. Heijin saw the creature's reaction and understood immediately. They are hurting you right now, are not they? She looked up at the sky, at the stars visible even in daylight. She knew someone was watching. Someone was controlling this creature. Stop it, she shouted. Stop hurting it. Captain Jiwoo and her squad had crept close enough to see everything clearly now. They watched as the Dreadmaw endured whatever pain it was experiencing, refusing to move, refusing to attack. They watched as this civilian woman yelled at the sky, defending the monster that should have killed her. Captain. What do we do? Minho whispered. Minho whispered. Nothing, Jiwoo said. We watch. And we learn. Commander Taejin increased the pain compliance level. The Dreadmaw's vital signs spiked, its body convulsed. But it remained sitting. It would not move. Would not attack. The creature that had destroyed 47 worlds was refusing to obey. Maximum level, Taejin ordered, his voice tight. Sir, that level could cause permanent neural damage, Quan protested. Do it. The pain compliance system hit maximum power. On the ground, the Dreadmaw let out a sound that made every human in Sector 7G cover their ears. It was not a roar. It was a cry. The sound of something in unbearable agony. But still, it did not move. Heijin felt tears on her face. She pressed her hand against the creature's leg, wishing she could do something, anything to help. I am so sorry, she whispered. I am so sorry they are doing this to you. Behind her, Sojun started crying. Nari hugged her brother. Even little Do-hyun understood that something terrible was happening. Then Heijin noticed something. In the gaps between the crystalline armor plates, she could see metal implants embedded in the creature's flesh. Dozens of them. Maybe hundreds. Each one was a point of pain, a way to hurt the creature into obedience. This was not a weapon. This was a victim. You can turn off the pain, Heijin said to the creature, speaking clearly and calmly. You are stronger than them. You are bigger than them. You can choose to not let them hurt you anymore. On the Vrexian ship, something unprecedented happened. The Dreadmaw's neural readings showed a massive spike in activity. Not aggression, not pain response. Something new. Something the bioengineers had never planned for. Choice. The pain compliance system suddenly stopped working. Not because the Vrexians turned it off, but because the Dreadmaw's nervous system had adapted. In real time, the creature's body was rerouting neural pathways, cutting off the signals from the implants. Sir, we have lost control, Quan reported, his voice shaking. The pain compliance system is no longer affecting the subject. Taejin stared at the screen. At the small human woman who had somehow, impossibly, broken their ultimate weapon. On the ground, the Dreadmaw opened its eyes. The pain was gone. For the first time in its entire existence, the creature was free from hurt. It looked down at the human who had told it to stop, who had told it to sit, who had stayed with it through the pain. One massive eye focused on Heijin. And from deep within, the creature's chest, came a new sound. Not a roar, not a cry, a rumbling purr of gratitude. Heijin smiled through her tears. Good, she said gently. You are being so good. Admiral Gunwoo canceled the missile strike. Captain Jiwoo lowered her weapon. Commander Taejin realized his empire had just lost its greatest advantage. And Heijin, a single mother from New Hanyang, had just adopted the galaxy's most dangerous creature, using nothing more than her indoor voice. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light-speed communication. Within hours, every species with access to interstellar networks knew what had happened on New Hanyang. The Dreadmaw, the Vrexian Empire's unstoppable bioweapon, had been stopped by a single human woman using nothing but her voice. In the Council of Allied Species, emergency sessions were called. Military analysts demanded to know what kind of weapon the humans had developed. Was it a new sonic technology? A psionic ability? Some kind of biomanipulation device? The truth was simpler and more terrifying. It was just a mother's voice. Heijin sat on a piece of broken concrete, exhausted. Her children were behind her, safe in the shelter of the Dreadmaw's massive body. The creature had curled itself protectively around the ruined building, creating a barrier between Heijin's family and the rest of the world. Captain Jiwoo approached slowly, her hands visible and empty of weapons. "Ma'am, I am Captain Jiwoo of the Colonial Defense Force. Are you and your children hurt?" Heijin looked up. She had not slept in 30 hours. Her clothes were covered in dust. Her hands were shaking from adrenaline. But her children were alive, and that was all that mattered. "We are fine," she said. "But this creature needs help. They have been torturing it." Jiwoo looked at the Dreadmaw. The massive beast was watching her with those 6 eyes, but made no aggressive moves. It seemed content to stay exactly where it was, curled around the small human family. "Ma'am, we need to evacuate you and your children. It is not safe here." "Safe?" Heijin almost laughed. "Captain, this creature could have killed us at any moment. It chose not to. That makes it safer than half the people I know." Lieutenant Yuna joined them, carrying medical supplies. "Ma'am, please let me check your children for injuries." Heijin looked back at Sojun, Nari, and Do-hyun. They were dirty and scared, but unharmed. She nodded, and Yuna carefully approached the children. The Dreadmaw watched but did not interfere. Sergeant Minho was on the communication link with Admiral Gunwoo. "Sir, the situation is stable. The creature is not showing aggression. The civilians are unharmed. But sir, you need to see this for yourself." High above, Admiral Gunwoo was already preparing a shuttle. He had spent 20 years in the military. He had fought in 3 wars. He had seen things that gave him nightmares, but he had never seen anything like this. Commander Taejin paced his command ship like a caged animal. His career was over. His empire's military advantage was gone. The Dreadmaw, which had cost billions of credits and decades of research to create, was now useless. Worse than useless. It had become a symbol of Vrexian failure. "Sir, we are receiving communications from the Council," Quan reported. "They are demanding an explanation. 3 allied species have withdrawn their treaties. Economic sanctions are being proposed." "Tell them nothing," Taejin snapped. "This is a temporary setback. The Dreadmaw will return to function once we remove it from that planet." "Sir, I do not think that is possible anymore." Taejin turned to glare at his second-in-command. "Explain." Quan pulled up the bio readings. "The Dreadmaw has fundamentally changed. Its neural pathways are different now. It has overridden its aggression programming. It has disabled the pain compliance system. And sir, it has imprinted on that human female." "Imprinted?" "Yes, sir. Like a juvenile bonding with a parent figure. The bioengineers always worried this might happen if we did not maintain the aggression conditioning. The Dreadmaw is psychologically young, despite its physical size. It needed guidance, structure, authority. We provided that through pain. But now it has found those things through something else." "Through what?" Quan hesitated. "Through kindness, sir." On the ground, Heijin was examining the Dreadmaw more carefully. With Captain Jiwoo's help, she had identified at least 40 neural implants embedded in the creature's flesh. Each one was designed to deliver pain directly to specific nerve clusters. "This is torture," Heijin said flatly. They built this creature and then tortured it into obedience. No wonder it was violent. Jiwoo had seen combat. She had seen soldiers break under interrogation. She had seen prisoners who would do anything to make the pain stop. Looking at the implants, she understood. The Dreadmaw had never been a weapon. It had been a slave. Can we remove the implants? Jiwoo asked. Not without surgery. And I doubt we have any medical facilities large enough to handle something this size. The Dreadmaw shifted slightly, trying to get more comfortable. Its movement made the ground shake. Do-hyun giggled. Mommy, it is like a puppy. A really, really big puppy. Haejin smiled despite everything. Yes, baby. A very big puppy that needs to be more careful. Oh. She looked up at the creature. You need to move more slowly. You are shaking things when you move. Gentle movements. Understand? The Dreadmaw's 6 eyes focused on her. Then it tried again, shifting its weight with exaggerated slowness. The ground barely trembled. 18 spi. Good, Haejin said. That is much better. Lieutenant Yuna finished checking the children and returned to Captain Jiwoo. Captain. This is incredible. She is training it. In real time, she is teaching a bioweapon to be gentle. Admiral Gunwoo arrived an hour later. He climbed out of his shuttle with a security team, expecting danger. Instead, he found a scene that looked almost domestic. The Dreadmaw was lying down now, its massive head resting on the ground. Haejin's children were sitting near it, and Sojun was reading a book out loud. The creature appeared to be listening. What am I looking at? Gunwoo asked. Sir, I believe we are watching First Contact, Jiwoo said. Real first contact. Not between species, but between a living weapon and someone who sees it as a living being. Gunwoo approached carefully. The Dreadmaw's eyes tracked him, but it did not react aggressively. It simply watched, waiting. Haejin stood up when she saw the Admiral's uniform. She was still covered in dust and exhausted, but she straightened her spine. Are you in charge here? I am Admiral Gunwoo, yes. And you are? I am Haejin, structural engineer, mother of 3, and apparently now the caretaker of a traumatized bioweapon. Gunwoo blinked. In all his years of service, no one had ever introduced themselves quite like that. Ma'am, we need to secure this creature and evacuate you and your family. You cannot secure it, Haejin said calmly. Your weapons do not work on it. Your weapons have never worked on it. But I can control it, because I am not trying to hurt it, ma'am. With respect, this creature has destroyed cities. It has killed thousands. We cannot simply let it remain free. It destroyed cities because it was being tortured. It killed people because it was in constant pain and did not know any other way to make it stop. Haejin pointed at the implants. Look at what they did to it. Then tell me who the real monster is. Gunwoo looked at the implants. At the scars beneath the armor. At the way the massive creature was carefully staying still so it would not frighten the children nearby. He had spent his career making hard choices, but this was different. What do you propose? He asked. Let me stay with it. Let me teach it. It is like a child, Admiral. A very large, very dangerous child that has never known anything but pain. But it can learn. It wants to learn. It just needs someone to show it how. From orbit, Commander Taejin watched the conversation. His translation systems were picking up every word. When he heard what the human woman proposed, he laughed bitterly. She wants to train it. She thinks she can domesticate the Dreadmaw. Perhaps she can, sir, Kwon said quietly. Taejin turned to his second-in-command. You think I should just let them have our most valuable military asset? Sir, I think we no longer have a choice. The Dreadmaw will not obey us anymore. It has chosen her. And every species in the galaxy is watching to see what we do next. On New Hanyang, little Nari had crawled closer to the Dreadmaw's head. She held out her stuffed rabbit. Are you sad? she asked the massive creature. When I am sad, I hug my rabbit. Do you want to hug it? The Dreadmaw looked at the tiny toy, then at the small child offering it. Slowly, carefully. It extended one claw. The claw was the size of a small vehicle, but the creature moved it with incredible precision. It gently touched the rabbit with just the tip of one talon. Nari smiled. See? Hugs make everything better. And from deep within the Dreadmaw's chest came that sound again. The rumbling purr that meant comfort, safety, peace. Admiral Gunwu watched this exchange and made his decision. He spoke into his communicator. All units, stand down. The creature is to be classified as a refugee, not a weapon. Repeat. The Dreadmaw is now under civilian protection. Across the galaxy, military analysts would spend years trying to understand what had happened on New Hanyang. They would write papers about sonic frequencies and psychological manipulation. They would build theories about human evolution and social hierarchies. But the truth was simpler than any of them wanted to admit. Sometimes the strongest force in the universe is not a weapon or a technology. Sometimes it is just a mother who knows the difference between a monster and a child having a very bad day. 3 days passed. 3 days that changed everything. The Dreadmaw refused to move from Sector 7G. Commander Taejin sent 3 different recovery teams to retrieve it. Each team approached with transport ships large enough to carry the creature. Each team activated the old control protocols. Each team failed. The Dreadmaw would not respond to Vrexian commands anymore. It only responded to one voice. Heijin's voice. On the second day, Taejin tried something desperate. He sent a message directly to the human colony, bypassing military channels. The message was simple. He wanted to speak with the woman who had stopped his weapon. Heijin stood in what remained of her living room, holding a communication device that Admiral Gunwu had given her. Through it, she could hear Commander Taejin's voice, translated into Korean. Human, what have you done to our weapon? Heijin looked out the window at the Dreadmaw. It was lying in the street, watching her house. Seojun was drawing pictures to show it. Nari was making flower chains from the garden. Do-hyun was napping against the creature's leg, completely comfortable. Your weapon? Heijin said. Is that what you call it? Do you even know it is a living thing? Of course I know. We created it. We designed every cell, every instinct, every capability. It is the ultimate bioweapon. You created a child, Heijin said coldly. You created something that thinks and feels and suffers. Then you hurt it until it did what you wanted. That is not weapon making. That is abuse. Silence on the channel. Then Taejin spoke again, his voice harder. The Dreadmaw has destroyed 47 worlds. It has killed thousands. Are you saying we should feel guilty for controlling something so dangerous? I am saying you made it dangerous. This creature does not want to hurt anyone. It wants to be safe. It wants to not be in pain. Give any living thing constant suffering, and it will lash out. You did not create a weapon. You created a victim. Then what do you suggest, human? The Dreadmaw cannot be left free. It is too powerful. Too unpredictable. Heijin looked out at the massive creature, playing gently with her children. It is not unpredictable. It is very predictable. Give it structure. Give it kindness. Give it boundaries. And it behaves. That is not unpredictable. That is normal. Captain Jiwoo was in the room with Heijin, along with Admiral Gunwu. They listened to the conversation with fascination. The Admiral leaned forward and spoke. Commander Taejin, this is Admiral Gunwu of the Human Colonial Defense. We have xenobiologists examining the Dreadmaw. Their findings support what Heijin is saying. Your creature has the psychological development of a juvenile. It needed guidance, not torture. More silence. Then Taejin said something that surprised everyone. I want asylum. What? Gunwu said. I want to defect to the human colony. I want asylum. I will tell you everything about the Dreadmaw program, about Vrexian bioweapons research, about our military capabilities. In exchange, I want protection. Heijin and Gunwoo exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected. Why? Heijin asked. Because I am finished in the Vrexian Empire, Taejin said, and for the first time his voice sounded tired. The Council of Allied Species has placed sanctions on us. 3 of our tributary species have rebelled. Our economy is collapsing, and it is all because of what happened on your planet. Because one human woman did what our entire military could not. She controlled the Dreadmaw without pain, without force, without cruelty. That makes everything we did wrong. That makes me a war criminal. You are a war criminal, Heijin said bluntly. You tortured a living creature and used it to threaten entire worlds. You do not get to escape consequences because you are scared. I know, Taejin said quietly. But I can help you understand the Dreadmaw better. I can tell you how to remove the implants safely. I can give you everything you need to help it. Is not that worth something? Admiral Gunwoo muted the channel and turned to Heijin. What do you think? I think he is a coward, Heijin said. But if he can help the Dreadmaw, if he can help us remove those torture devices, then maybe it is worth it. Gunwoo nodded and unmuted the channel. Commander Taejin, we will consider your request for asylum, but you will be tried for war crimes. You will be held accountable. Do you understand? I understand. Then prepare to land. We will send coordinates. On the Vrexian command ship, Quan watched his superior pack a small bag. Sir, are you certain about this? I am certain that staying here means execution, Taejin said. At least with the humans. I might live long enough to see what becomes of the Dreadmaw. I spent 10 years working on that project. I want to know if that woman can really save it. The next day, human xenobiologists arrived in Sector 7G with equipment and ideas. Leading them was Dr. Minji, a specialist in alien biology. She approached the Dreadmaw cautiously, scanning it with various instruments. This is remarkable, Dr. Minji said. The creature's neural structure is reorganizing itself. It is adapting in real time to new behavioral patterns. Heijin sat nearby, watching. Can you remove the implants? Perhaps. But it will require surgery. The implants are embedded deep in nerve clusters. If we remove them incorrectly, we could paralyze the creature, or worse. Then we do it correctly, Heijin said firmly. Dr. Minji looked at the massive bioweapon. This will take time. Weeks. Maybe months. And we will need the creature to stay very still during the procedures. Can you keep it calm? Heijin smiled. Yes, I can keep it calm. The surgery began the following week. Human engineers constructed a temporary medical facility in Sector 7G. Dr. Minji and her team studied the Dreadmaw's anatomy, using information that Taejin provided. The Vrexian commander kept his word, giving them detailed schematics of every implant and every control system. During the first surgery, Heijin sat next to the Dreadmaw's head. The creature was awake, its 6 eyes open and afraid. The doctors had given it local anesthetic, but the Dreadmaw could still feel the cutting, still sense the invasion of its body. It is okay, Heijin said softly. They are helping you. They are taking away the things that hurt you, but you need to stay very still. Can you do that for me? The Dreadmaw made a low sound, almost a whimper, but it did not move. Dr. Minji carefully extracted the first implant from the creature's shoulder. It was a small metal device covered in neural connectors. This is barbaric, she muttered. These implants are designed to maximize pain. There was no medical reason for them to be this cruel. The cruelty was the point, Taejin said. He was there as a consultant, under guard but present. We believed that only through constant threat of pain could we control something so powerful. You were wrong, Heijin said without looking at him. Yes, Taejin admitted. I was wrong. The surgery took 4 hours. When it was done, 1 implant was removed. 39 remained. The Dreadmaw was exhausted, but relieved. That night, it slept deeply for the first time in its life, free from one source of constant pain. Seojun had been watching the surgery from a safe distance. That evening, he came to his mother with questions. "Mom, why did those people hurt the Dreadmaw?" "Mom," Heijin sat down with her son. This was not an easy conversation, but it was an important one. Because they were afraid. The Dreadmaw is very big and very strong. They thought the only way to control something big and strong was to hurt it. But that is wrong. Yes, it is wrong. You do not hurt us when you want us to behave. Heijin smiled and hugged her son. No, I do not. Because hurting you would not make you behave better. It would just make you scared and sad. Real control, real authority, comes from respect and trust, not from fear. Seojun thought about this. The Dreadmaw respects you. Yes, it does. Because you did not hurt it. Because I treated it the way I treat you. Like someone worth respecting. Over the following weeks, more implants were removed. Each surgery was easier than the last. The Dreadmaw learned to trust the doctors. It learned that temporary discomfort led to permanent relief. Most importantly, it learned that not all touch meant pain. Nari started bringing the Dreadmaw flowers every day. She would make little bouquets and place them near its head. The creature could not smell them, but it appreciated the gesture. Sometimes it would carefully touch the flowers with one claw, mimicking Nari's gentleness. Do-hyun simply accepted the Dreadmaw as part of the family. To him, there was nothing strange about having a 30-meter-tall bioweapon as a pet. He would tell it about his day, about the toys he played with, about the dreams he had. The Dreadmaw would listen with complete attention. Captain Ji-woo visited often. She had been assigned as military liaison for what everyone was now calling the Dreadmaw Project. She watched Heijin work with the creature and took notes. "You should write a manual," Ji-woo said one day. "Other species will want to know how you did this." "I did not do anything special," Heijin said. "I just treated it like a person instead of a weapon. That was special. Trust me." By the end of the 3rd week, 20 implants had been removed. The Dreadmaw was calmer, happier, more engaged with the world. It started making different sounds. Not just the rumbling purr, but also chirps and whistles that seemed to indicate curiosity or contentment. Dr. Minji was amazed by the changes. Its brain chemistry has completely rebalanced. Stress hormones are down. Dopamine and serotonin are normal. This is not the same creature we started with. "It is the same creature," Heijin corrected. "It is just finally allowed to be itself." And in a small room nearby, Commander Taejin watched all of this through a window. He watched the creature he had helped create finally find peace. He watched a human mother succeed where an entire empire had failed. And for the first time in his career, Taejin understood what real strength looked like. 6 months later, New Hanyang looked different. Sector 7G had been partially rebuilt, but with new accommodations. The streets were wider, buildings were reinforced, and in the center of the sector, there was a large open space designated for one very specific resident. The Dreadmaw, who Heijin's children had named Duri, meaning two in Korean, because it had been given a second chance at life. The name stuck. Official documents still called it the Dreadmaw, but everyone in the colony called it Duri. All 40 implants had been removed. The surgeries were complete. For the first time in its existence, Duri was free from pain. The change was remarkable. The creature that had once destroyed cities now spent its days helping construction crews lift heavy materials and playing gently with children in the park. Admiral Gunwoo stood in his office, reading reports from across the galaxy. The Dreadmaw incident, as historians were calling it, had changed everything. The Vrexian Empire was in collapse. 3 more species had declared independence. Economic sanctions had crippled their military-industrial complex. And the Council of Allied Species had passed new laws about bioweapons and the treatment of engineered life forms. Captain Jiwoo entered the office. She had been promoted to major for her handling of the crisis. "Sir, you wanted to see me?" "Yes," Gunwoo said. "I have been asked to write an official report about what happened here. For the historical record, I want your input." Jiwoo sat down. "What do you want to know? What did we learn? What is the lesson that future generations should take from this?" Jiwoo thought for a moment. "We learned that power is not the same as strength. The Vrexians had power over the Dreadmaw. They could hurt it, control it, force it to fight. But Heejin had strength. She had the strength to see past the monster to the person inside. She had the strength to offer kindness when everyone else offered violence. That is the real lesson. Strength is not about causing pain. Strength is about preventing it." Gunwoo nodded slowly. "That is good. I will include that." Gunwoo, 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 nodded slowly. In Sector 7G, Heijin was getting ready for work. She had returned to her job at the construction facility, though now she worked part-time. The rest of her time was spent with Duri, teaching it, training it, helping it adjust to life without constant pain. Seojun was at school. Nari was at kindergarten. Dohyun was at daycare. For the first time in months, Heijin had a few hours to herself. She made tea and sat on her porch, looking out at the city. Duri was across the street, helping a construction crew install support beams for a new building. The creature moved with careful precision, lifting multi-ton beams into place with gentle ease. Workers shouted directions, and Duri followed them exactly. No one was afraid anymore. The monster had become a neighbor. Dr. Minji arrived at Heijin's house carrying a datapad. "I finished the final medical report on Duri. I thought you would want to see it." Heijin invited her in. They sat at the kitchen table, and Dr. Minji pulled up the results. "Duri is completely healthy. The removal of the implants has caused no permanent damage. In fact, the creature's overall health has improved dramatically. It is eating better, sleeping better, and showing none of the stress markers we saw 6 months ago." "That is good," Heijin said. "There is more," Dr. Minji continued. "We have discovered something interesting about Duri's biology. The creature is still young. Very young. Our best estimates suggest it is only about 5 years old, developmentally. 5 years? But it has been fighting for decades. Artificially aged," Dr. Minji explained. "The Vrexians accelerated its physical growth, but not its mental development. That is why it responded so well to parental authority. It was not just craving structure. It was craving a parent." Heijin looked out the window at Duri. The massive creature that had terrified half the galaxy was essentially a kindergartner. A traumatized, abused kindergartner who had never known kindness until now. "How long will it live?" Heijin asked quietly. "Unknown. The Vrexian data suggests centuries, possibly longer. Duri will likely outlive you, your children, and your grandchildren." And, Assi, Heijin absorbed this information. She had adopted a creature that would exist long after she was gone. "Then, I need to teach it well, so that when I am not here anymore, it will remember how to be good." That evening, the children came home from school. Sojun had a project about alien biology and asked if he could interview Duri for his report. Heejin said yes. Seojun approached Duri with a notebook and recorder. "Duri, I am doing a school project. Can I ask you questions?" Duri lowered its head and made a soft, chirping sound. "Yes. What do you remember from before you came here?" Duri was quiet for a long moment. Then, it made a series of low, rumbling sounds. Heijin had learned to interpret these sounds over the months. Pain. Always pain. Fighting because fighting made the pain stop for a while. Being scared all the time. "What is different now?" Sojun asked. Duri touched its head gently against Sojun's hand. Safe. No pain. Family. Seojun wrote this down carefully. Then he asked one more question. What do you want to do now? What do you want to be? Seojun. Duri looked at Heijin, then at Seojun, then at Nari, who was playing nearby, and finally at little Dohyun, who was showing Duri a drawing he had made. The creature made a long, complicated series of sounds. Heijin translated. Duri wants to help. It wants to build things instead of breaking them. It wants to protect people instead of hurting them. It wants to be useful. That is a good goal, Seojun said seriously. Across the galaxy, the Council of Allied Species held a special session. The topic was the Dreadmaw and what it meant for interstellar law. Representatives from 40 species gathered to discuss the implications. A delegate from the Kethran Collective spoke first. The Dreadmaw represents a new category of being. It is not natural. It was created artificially. But it is alive. It thinks. It feels. It has rights. We must establish legal protections for all bioengineered creatures. Another delegate from the Thos Federation agreed. The Vrexian Empire used torture to control a sentient being. This cannot be allowed to continue. We propose sanctions against any species that uses pain compliance on engineered life. The proposals passed with overwhelming support. The Dreadmaw incident had created new laws, new ethics, and new understanding about what it meant to create life. Commander Taejin watched these proceedings from his cell on New Hanyang. He was awaiting trial for war crimes, but he was treated humanely. He had food, shelter, medical care. No torture. No pain compliance, just consequences. Lieutenant Yuna was assigned as his guard. She brought him meals and made sure he was comfortable within the limits of his imprisonment. One day, Taejin asked her a question. Do you hate me for what I did? Yuna thought about this. I hate what you did. I hate that you hurt Duri. I hate that you used it to threaten innocent people. But you? I think you were a product of your culture. You did terrible things because you thought they were necessary. Now you know better. Whether I hate you depends on what you do with that knowledge. Taejin nodded slowly. I am writing a book. About the Dreadmaw project. About everything we did wrong. I want other species to learn from our mistakes. That is a start, Yuna said. Months turned into a year. New Hanyang thrived. Duri became famous across the galaxy as a symbol of redemption and change. Tourists came from other worlds just to see the creature that had been tamed by a mother's voice. But Heijin did not let the fame change anything. She still worked her job. She still raised her children. She still treated Duri like a member of her family, not a celebrity. One evening, Heijin was making dinner when Duri made an unusual sound outside. She went to the window and saw the creature looking up at the stars. There was something in that gaze. Loneliness, maybe, or longing. Heijin went outside and stood next to Duri. Duri made a soft, sad sound. The only one, alone. Heijin understood. Duri was the only one of its kind. The Vrexians had created other bioweapons, but none like Duri. None that had survived. Duri was unique, singular, and completely alone in its existence. I cannot give you others like you, Heijin said honestly. But you have us. You have Seojun, Nari, and Dohyun. You have me. You have the whole colony. We are your family now. We are your family. We are your family. Duri lowered its head and pressed gently against Heijin. She put her arms around as much of the creature as she could reach. It was like hugging a building. But she tried. You are not a weapon, Heijin whispered. You are not a monster. You are Duri. You are ours. You are loved. And from deep within Duri's chest came that sound. The rumbling purr that meant everything was okay. That meant home. That meant family. 5 years later, Heijin stood at a podium in front of representatives from 20 species. She had been invited to speak at the Interstellar Conference on Engineered Life. Her children sat in the front row. Duri waited outside, too large to fit in the building but watching through the windows. "I am not a soldier," Heijin began. "I am not a scientist. I am not a politician. I am a mother. And as a mother, I know one simple truth. Every living thing needs three things. They need safety. They need structure. They need love. If you create life, whether natural or artificial, you have a responsibility to provide those three things. If you cannot or will not provide them, you have no right to create that life in the first place." She paused, looking at the gathered delegates. The Vrexians created Duri to be a weapon. They gave it power but no purpose beyond destruction. They gave it intelligence but no guidance. They gave it life but no reason to value that life. Then they were surprised when it became dangerous. This is the lesson we must all learn. Life finds a way to thrive when given the chance, but if you only teach life how to hurt, you cannot be surprised when hurt is all it knows how to give. The conference hall was silent. Then, slowly, applause began. It spread through the room until every delegate was standing. Outside, Duri heard the applause and knew Heijin had done well. The creature settled down to wait, patient and content. There was no pain anymore. No confusion. No fear. Just the knowledge that when Heijin came out, they would go home together. They would have dinner. The children would play. And Duri would be exactly where it belonged. In the vastness of space, there are weapons that can destroy planets. Technologies that can reshape reality. Powers that can challenge the laws of physics. But on one small colony world, a single mother with 3 children and an indoor voice had proven something more important than any of that. The strongest force in the universe is not destruction. It is creation. Not creation of weapons or tools, but creation of bonds, family, love, and purpose. These things can heal any wound, redeem any past, and turn even monsters into miracles. And somewhere in the ruins of the Vrexian Empire, former military officers read reports about the Dreadmaw with wonder and regret. They had built the most powerful bioweapon ever created, but they had forgotten the most basic truth about power. Real power is not about control. Real power is about connection. And no amount of force can match the strength of someone who simply refuses to give up on you.